In 2009, employees in an office in Portland, Oregon began reporting that their network printers were possessed. After hours, when the lights went off, the building was empty. The printers would suddenly awaken, whirring to life, spitting out pages covered in garbled hieroglyphics and code like symbols. Some staff joked that it was a ghost of a former employee still trying to meet deadlines. Others actually avoided the office entirely after dark. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Legitimate Cybersecurity Podcast.
Happy
I am your host,
Halloween.
and happy Halloween. I'm your host, and with me, as always, is DJ Frankie Frank with his awesome mask. I really think that's a cool mask. Like, I'm super jealous of it. I kind of
I've
want it.
completely changed my entire plan for my costume. I mean, I'm still going to be Baymax with my son when he's out trick-or-treating, but I'm reading a really good series called Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it's bananas. The whole idea is aliens come to Earth and people are in a dungeon, but like a RPG dungeon, and they have different levels and they're getting there, but they dress absurd as a result because different items give different skill sets. So anyway, that's a long explanation for like the 12 listeners we have to understand why I look absurd. And I'm going to take this off because it's getting super warm.
Yeah, take it off before it burns your face.
Yeah.
Speaking of machines burning your face, we have a very special episode, a Halloween episode for you all, where we're actually going to be talking about some possible paranormal things that ended up not being paranormal, but you get it, that happen on networked computers or devices that we all have. I just wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit here and tell some stories. And so Frank's heard one of these stories. Actually, Frank is the one who told me about the last story we're going to tell today, which is a really good one. But I'm going to tell a couple of other stories, and I'm going to kind of go back and forth with Frank here and see if we can figure out what happened before we read the conclusions of the actual investigation that happened. So the first story I want to tell you today, Frank, it's called "The Ghost in the Printer." So in 2000, yeah, this is a good one. In 2009, employees in an office in Portland, Oregon began reporting that their network printers were possessed. After hours, when the lights went off, the building was empty. The printers would suddenly awaken, whirring to life, spitting out pages covered in garbled hieroglyphics and code-like symbols. Some staff joked that it was a ghost of a former employee still trying to meet deadlines. Others actually avoided the office entirely after dark. So, what do you think is going on here? Just
Well, this is a fun
real
one because I've got another case study that applies to this. And I hope it's not the same thing and I'm just misunderstanding. There was an instance, and I want to say it was in the early 2000s, where Anonymous decided to take on Scientology, the Church of Scientology. And how they did this was by hacking all of their printers and printing all their black ink out of the toners so they couldn't print anything. And if that isn't the most, rascal kind of thing that I can think of doing against an organization, then I don't know what is, but that's the closest I've got. Were they Scientologists?
No, so this didn't have anything to do with this wasn't a hack necessarily. It was
Ooh.
just kind of an example of systems misbehaving because it was on the same site network segment as another system. And so what they found out when the IT department went in and started investigating this, they found out that it was actually the wake-on-LAN traffic that was being kicked off by broadcast packets. So printers with network cards, especially HP Office Jets JetDirect models from the mid-2000s were pretty notorious for this. When networking devices send broadcast packets, some printers interpret them as wake-up or print signals. And then if a packet is malformed, the printer would output the raw PCL data instead of the text. So that's where those kind of like weird symbols came from. And, the funny thing about this is on the, I run our penetration testing team as well as our vulnerability management team. We still deal with this today. So if we're running a vulnerability scan on a network segment and we always ask, do you guys have any printers? Because if you do, there's a pretty good chance that when we start throwing packets at things, there's going to be some print pages just like come out with random.
It's still really important to know that, though, when you want to print something for legitimate purposes, probably not going to work. All printers probably not going to work, especially if they're at your house. For one reason or another.
This is the perfect example of that, where it's like, it just doesn't work when you want it to, but for some reason it can ghost print, right? So a ghost can go in there and print whatever the hell they want. But if you want to try to print something that's like time sensitive, UPS guy is at your door, and you need that label printed, you can't get anything to print. I totally agree.
And now we're going to add on to this episode with a section called Free Movie Ideas from Frank. So, anyone who wants to make a new horror movie, all you have to do, right, is have a printer that's either possessed and sending out messages scaring kids, or is a way for a ghost to communicate. Oh, you could make it like a Meg Ryan movie where it could be a love story. And she's like, I love, I love this ghost. I know they're in this house. Well, how do you know? It communicates with me. Oh, like a Ouija board? Mm-mm. Print, print. And then the relationship is tested when she runs out of ink cartridges. And he's like, Ghost is like, oh, but I don't have any more pink to print my hearts for you. And then then you can combine the Meg Ryan love movie with the horror movie, and she has to kill someone with the printer so their ghost can go into that body through a special printed page that she makes them eat. There you go.
So, first of all, if
Million
this
dollar idea.
ever happens to you, don't buy it. It's probably not a go. Second of all, I do think it's funny that, like, even now with like modern day, so one of my guilty pleasures, I'm not sure if
Is
everybody knows
printing
this, but is printing. I love
sometimes late
printing.
at
Now,
night. I love to
I
print.
love watching like ghost hunters, like
Mm,
TV shows and stuff like that. I really like watching those, and I don't know why, but one of the things that always kind of trips me up is they have all these like they have all this electronic equipment, and they're like, "Oh man, my battery just drained completely on my camera." That's never happened before, but it happens like 30 times throughout the series, right? And like it's so funny because if your cell phone all of a sudden the battery drains on it, you're like, "Oh, stupid cell phone!" Like, "Oh, I got to go plug it in." Like you don't really care about it. If
you
you
didn't
put
know it was
yourself in the
actually
context
ghosts.
yeah, if you put yourself that's right. If you put yourself in the context of a haunted house, then you're like, "Oh, it's because of the spirits in the house," right? And so we get phenomena like EMF, like the voice EVP, that there are all these phenomena that ghost hunters and paranormal investigators are using to investigate like houses and stuff like that and haunted places. But really it's just the electromagnetic devices that we're using on a daily basis that are misbehaving a little bit. And when they behave normally, it's one thing. But if they behave in that context, then all of a sudden, oh, that's the spirits. And you know what, Frank? If I die, I'm not coming back to turn off anybody's cell phone. That's not. It's not going to be one of my main reasons for
Well,
coming
you
back as a
can't
ghost.
because when cell phones die, it's called giving up the ghost, not getting the ghost. So, and that's been Ghost's biggest, PR success because they're like, ah, my phone gave up the ghost. When really, that's no one expects ghosts that are actually killing your phone. So there you go. That's the first thought. Second, as we have these printers that are, and for those of you who aren't aware, broadcast packets are something that are done when a device is connected to a system, a series of, to better understand and communicate where that device is, it will send out broadcast packets and other devices will listen as well. It's a string of Fs if you're looking at the hex and so forth. And it's just a better way, it's a bad way, actually, of, establishing and it'll interconnect with DHCP and so forth and understanding where things are,
Very
all that.
noisy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super, super, super noisy and can slow down your network. But printers will always do it because printers are the jackals at the gates of cyber hell. And despite us going to a paperless future, right, we still print. Anyway, so that's what we mean with broadcast, right? With the broadcast and the wake-on-LAN. Okay. I promise I'm getting to another point that I started the sentence with. But like
Yeah. No.
wake-on-LAN, I've never really been a huge fan of it because it's so finicky that any random packet can just have things wake up. And
Right.
you could probably call me Ebenezer Scrooge when it comes to the power bill. And I'm like, don't you be waking things up if I'm not using them?
Mhm.
I don't need to take your
Yep.
power. It's probably just because I'm a dad at this point. And then finally, with all of that together, my question for you is then, when I watch those shows, those ghost shows of which you
Hmm.
reference, are you telling me there's a non-zero chance that when they take out those random sound devices that apparently are attuned to the magnetosphere and so forth, that could actually just be broadcast packets the entire time over Wi-Fi that are making it go, help me, F you. And it's so, because they're making so many sounds at once that they can just pick conveniently what sound is the actual words.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is known as the ghost box, which is actually you hear words coming out of a box that is, in the vicinity of the person, and while they're going ghost hunting. 100%. Not only that, but I'm pretty sure some of them have. dictionaries attached to them, so they will say the words that are being sensed, right, via
Yeah,
electromagnetic
because
spectrum.
that's what ghosts need, dictionaries. Ghosts need, they
Right.
can't talk without them.
And I love when they go when it's like a person who speaks English who goes into a place where English is not the main language and they're talking to ghosts in English. I think that's really amazing that like ghosts can actually speak other languages.
Because the
But
ghosts
anyway,
suddenly
like
know other languages and can speak them, but still need a dictionary just to be sure. And also, they never open up those ghost boxes to show you like the Raspberry Pi that's
no,
probably in there with all that stuff.
that's exactly what it is on the inside of
Yeah.
it. There's also apps for your phones that can do the same thing, but again, who knows what's actually going on the inside of these things.
As an aside, while there's no official policy or statement by the legitimate cybersecurity team, my personal suggestion is don't go looking for ghosts.
Yeah,
Again, you know,
yeah.
they're fine. Let
So
them.
what's the adage? Search for the devil and you'll find him, kind of thing. Is that not? Yeah.
I wouldn't know. Haven't gone looking.
I don't know. Didn't look for the devil. But hey, like on this actual note of these printers being possessed, this is actually a really good kind of cyber hygiene thing to talk about. So if you're
Yes.
doing network scans, if you're doing pen tests, this is something you have to be really cognizant about, especially with printers, but especially with IoT devices and OT devices, right? Sometimes if you're sending a bunch of packets at a centrifuge that's run by IP, you can make it spin faster, right?
Hey,
Not gonna say, not gonna,
let's
or a pump. You might
let's use
with an
realistic
actuator.
examples here, Dustin. Why would we
Yeah,
ever use that?
a pump with an actuator, right? You don't want to be messing around with too many things there. So there are ways to mitigate that. Make sure
Mhm.
that if you're planning on doing a pen test or planning on doing vulnerability scans or management with an organization, make sure that you're communicating properly where those OT environments are, because there are proper mitigation techniques that can happen where you can still sense in the paranormal, where you can still sense those devices and where their vulnerabilities might be without having to actively scan them. There's passive scanning. There's some other stuff that we can do on the back end as well. So just quick note on maybe why you shouldn't just go in shooting packets throughout a network. Your employees will also think that your place is possessed apparently, and they don't want to come into work. Keep that in mind. All right, are we ready for number two? Because I'm pretty sure I think you might have been a victim of number two, Frank.
Proceed.
Yeah, see, you didn't search for the ghost, Frank, but the ghost found you. This one is
Yeah.
called the laughing smart speaker. So in early 2018, Amazon Alexa owners across the world began reporting something deeply unsettling. Their smart speakers were laughing unprompted. Dozens of users posted videos and transcripts online showing Alexa's sudden context free chuckles echoing throughout empty rooms. One user on Twitter described it as a bone chilling laugh, like a person standing behind me. News outlets from The Verge to the BBC News Network picked up these stories, dubbing it the Alexa laugh.
Yep.
Amazon quickly
Yep.
confirmed the bug, but do you know what the bug was?
I don't know what the bug was, but I do know that there's been a lasting impact in my family because my son hates smart speakers now. And he's always hated them since he was a kid, since he was a baby. And I'm pretty confident I now know why. Because whenever we would ask him, he would say, "It talks," but I don't talk to it. And I was like, "No, you talk to it, talks back." And like, "No," and then to the point when he was really young, he would cry. And I'm pretty confident it's because I heard it more than once. These things laughing. I'm gonna go. Let me give a guess. Let me give a guess. Why would they laugh? I'm sure it was an unsecured was it an unsecured API that you could just like spew stuff out? Am I overthinking this? I'm overthinking this,
You
aren't
are.
I?
You were overthinking this just like you were overthinking the first one. This is a little bit simpler.
All right. What is it?
So if you remember, I mean, like this is 2018. So when we talk about voice recognition, AI wasn't really a thing yet. It's gotten better with AI, but voice recognition is just the recognition of patterns of sound waves, right? Back in 2018, this was kind of and I even remember back in like early 2000, like 2001, with like Dragon Natural Speaking, it was terrible, right? And so these devices are basically like meant to pick up on a pattern of sound happening. And what might have been your air conditioning turning on at 3 a.m. might have sounded like, "Hey, Alexa."
Yeah, but that doesn't say, "Hey Alexa, giggle at me all creepy like."
Right. So the laughing part might have been, and this is just from Amazon, might have been because it was nonsensical after that. So if it heard those things and it heard some goop afterwards, it might have just thought that the human was saying like blah 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 blah, and then Alexa would be like, "Oh, that's hilarious. You're a funny human being," right? And so that's the big thing. So Amazon rolled out a patch changing the command to Alexa, can you laugh? That's the only thing. So they changed that, and then it would stop laughing randomly. That doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily not turn on randomly, because I will be walking through my house and I don't have Alexa, but I do have Google, and Google will all of a sudden be like, "I'm not sure, but I've Googled that for you." And I'm like, I have to run over there to go see what it Googled for me, because I have no idea. I didn't ask it to do anything. So it'll just hear these like random noise patterns in my house, and then I'll have to go and see what it thinks that I asked it.
The Google Home Assistant is very similar. I find my experience has been very similar too. And as a result, I've had to turn off the voice recognition of the Google assistants in my kids' rooms because they like to
Yes.
have ocean sounds at night to sleep. But if there was more than one instance where it would just say that and wake them up. And
Yeah.
as I'm telling you both these stories, I feel like I'm just creating a house of fear for these kids where they're like at any moment some sounds could come out of them. Oh, it's terrible. But yeah, it's and on a side note though, anyone who has Google Home right now is experiencing what you and I'm sure are experiencing, where it's just turned into complete trash. And
Yes.
I feel
So
like
bad. Yeah.
there's no devs left. If there is a dev, it's probably just some donkey that has convinced people it's a human and is not doing anything. They keep saying they're going to put Gemini in it. I just want this thing to work like it used to first
Like
before
it
you start
used
talking to
to.
me about Gemini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most supernatural thing about this thing is that my wife's gonna throw it out of the door. She's, like, ready, she's so done with it.
That's why we
I
switched
do
to
have
Google
to
because it upset my wife so much. But now we might go back to Alexa.
Alexa, yeah. So, I am part of the Gemini, like, early preview, and it still is terrible because you still it'll do weird things, like, it'll give me a daily brief and tell me what all of my cameras saw throughout the day in, like, plain like, paragraph form, like, essay format, and I'm like, "Cool, nobody a." I'm pretty
Nobody
sure no
wanted that.
one ever asked for that. No one said, "Hey, I need to know what's going on all around my house with all my sensors, and I need you to put that in a 5-paragraph essay, thank you very much." Maybe an
Exactly.
English teacher. Maybe an English teacher would do that. Nobody else wanted that. So it does things like that. Other than that, it's just as terrible, if not worse now with Gemini. So I really hope, Google's going to go and shut down all my stuff now. I really hope Google understands that,
Yeah. Also,
you
we
need to start fixing.
appreciate Google for the YouTube service it provides us to host on. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Google overlords. So on a cybersecurity note with all of this stuff though, one of the really important things to remember, obviously there's like an information security issue here, right? If you have these in your office, which most people don't. I don't think most offices subscribe to Alexa or Google Home. I could see some shadow IT stuff happening where somebody brings one in from their house because they like,
Yeah.
play some music for me or whatever while I work in their office, totally fine. But this is something that's always listening. And it's something that's always listening in your own home. With remote work, guess what? These things are all around us, right? They are constantly listening. Now, they can say that they're listening to, better recognize your voice, to make sure they obviously so they can hear the prompt. There's a lot of different reasons why it's listening, but that's something to keep in mind is that this is always listening. Not only is it always listening, but it has complete control. Sometimes, depending on how you have it set up, it might have complete control of your house or complete control of something, another piece of AC equipment or something like that. So just something to be cognizant of just cybersecurity wise for these things.
Well, and it kind of speaks to the vulnerability that it presents that we've seen through other things, specifically when we talked about the shadow leak and echo leak. If we're going to say that the natural progression
Right.
of these types of experiences are cognizant AIs that can help, and those types of hacks have specifically been performed by injecting instructions into an email that is then read by the AI that then performs the actions, right? How far are we from when we start getting things like Gemini placed into our home assistants or Alexa placed into our home, like smarter Alexa, whatever? Didn't someone who's visiting your house, like, come just say key commands that can then create a backdoor or a listening post or become part of a botnet? Yikes. That is, there's a lot of implications there that I'm sure everyone's thinking about. I'm sure all the people in charge are thinking about.
No, but like these last two examples are really good points of like the end user, the normal end user doesn't necessarily know how these things work on the like we constantly joke about magic internet brick, right? We have magic internet brick right here. Because most people are just like, this is magic, right? This is, I don't know how this works. So it's already in their mind something of a paranormal experience that they're like, I can't believe I. And when you talk to Chat GPT or you talk to Gemini and you're like, it's natural language communicate and it's natural kind of, what do they call that? Conversational version of that, where you're
Yeah,
talking to it and it's talking back. To me, I'm like, this is actually really cool. This is actually like really amazing. I get how it works on the back end, but also you and I have been doing this for a really long time. And so to an end user, these things seem really, or to a child who might not understand how these things work. And not that I'm comparing end users to children,
oh
but
yeah.
same kind of idea there, where you don't have to know how these things work on the back end, right? Children don't have to know how things work on the back end. You and I do. And so we're able to better explain what's going on here in a more practical manner than something like this that might seem like, my gosh, this is, this is something that shouldn't be the printers are printing. Alexa is laughing at me at 3 a.m. Yeah, I know it seems like magic, but it's not, or it seems like ghosts, but it's not.
And on that point of people, not having the technical understanding of these devices, such as smart home devices and so forth, it now brings me to my second free movie idea, starring Meg
Okay,
Ryan yet
let's
again.
hear it.
Meg Ryan, it's a remake of Sleepless in Seattle, but a little bit different because it's Meg Ryan or some equivalent at home, and all of a sudden their smart home device, Alexa or Google or whatever, starts talking and she starts to bond with that individual. That is unsolicited. Hey, how was your day? And stuff like that. It's because the individual talking to her has convinced her that they love her, that, they do a meet cute thing. And over time, you have montage of getting to know you through the device and all that stuff, only to find out it's just a rogue AI agent the whole time that a hacker's used, and it's being used by a hacker, a scammer, from one of the big, blocks of what are those? The hacking scammer cities out in Pakistan and India, and it's
Yeah.
just their latest tool to make you think you found love, but really you didn't. But it's too late because you said you gave them the money and all that. And then, but here's the twist where it becomes a
So
horror
this
story.
okay, this is gonna keep going. Let's do this. Yeah.
Yes, then she kills that man. Yeah,
Frank
free
Downs
movie.
TM.
Free movie,
If this movie
free movie.
comes out, if this comes out next month, like I think we're gonna know what legitimate cybersecurity podcasts that the producers in Hollywood are listening to. They're
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
listening to our
Well, put in a good word with Lionsgate. Yeah, there we go. They need one.
Blumhouse. I think this sounds more like one of those.
Blumhouse needs one too. Although I did
24.
see the recent Blumhouse release. What was the Blumhouse release that just recently came out? It was pretty scary, and I was surprised. What I did see last night was Shelby Oaks. Anyone who has time for that, that's a good spooky movie, a la Hereditary. It's only in a limited release, so hurry while you can. I only say
Yeah.
that because, I like the YouTuber who made it. So continue.
We are still waiting to watch Weapons, which is out on HBO Max now, I think. Sorry, I'm plugging
Also
this.
a great
HBO
film.
Max, pay me money. And then we did watch the first episode of Welcome to Derry, which I don't
No
know if you can tell,
spoilers.
but
No
I am a
spoilers.
Stephen King fan.
Yeah, I want to see. I'm waiting for you to watch so then I can watch so then I can comfortably discuss. Because
Yes.
while I like some Stephen King stuff, I'm not at the level you are, sir. And I know I learned what it was. It was like some alien ball thing or ghost or dimensional. See, I was told what it was. Still not sure. Even met him again on the Dark Tower where he had his own house, and still not sure what it is. But anyway, neither here nor there. Tell me another scary cyber story, Dustin.
Let's do it. This is our third one. This one is a little creepier. This one's called Messages from Beyond. So in late 2019, people across the United States began receiving text messages from friends and family, some of whom had been dead for years. The phenomena swept through social media under the hashtag GhostText. Recipients described chilling experiences such as birthday greetings from deceased relatives, old flirty messages from ex-partners, or simply "I miss you" text after the sender had passed away. Many assumed their phones had been hacked or haunted.
Okay, here's my thoughts. I have two
There
ideas.
are
I'm
two,
sure
by the way,
both
there are
of them
two
are
explanations because one,
okay.
there is an email aspect to this and an SMS text message aspect to this.
I got a couple ideas here. They're all wrong, I'm sure. First, stolen phones. When you have stolen phones, and if you're able to track them, traditionally they end up on the other side of the world. There are multiple uses for them. Sometimes scammers buy them so that they can get the information out of it to then try and scam individuals that are in the contact list. That's
Mhm.
my first suggestion as
Okay.
scammers calling. It could also just be a blanket send of a message that you see a lot now with scammers where they send the SMS saying, how are you today? And so forth. But since it's coming from someone that they supposedly know, there's that. Are you going to try and tell me that there is a code you can put in to have it pull from a contact list and seem like it's coming from a contact, but it's not, and it can come from any. Here, I'm overthinking that one. All right, those are my suggestions. Those are my thoughts. Please proceed.
You went deep on this one. And look, there's always the capability of SMS spoofing, which we'll get into in a second.
Yeah,
But
that too.
the real explanation came from telecommunication providers, a server responsible for routing cross-carrier SMS messages, specifically through Cineverse, a major backbone processor, had experienced a long-term fault. When it was
Oh,
rebooted on November 7th, 2019, it released a backlog of nearly 168,000 undelivered messages, some
oh
dating back to
no.
Wednesday, 2019. The event was purely technical, but for those who received a message from beyond, it felt anything but. A similar phenomena has occurred with email automation systems, scheduled birthday or anniversary reminders sent by deceased users via platforms like Gmail,
That one.
Boomerang, or third
Yeah.
party schedulers. These small digital echoes delayed or automated from a new kind of modern haunting, ghosts born from code, queue delays, and persistent data. So here we are again. This is the cybersecurity kind of tie into all of this.
I think this is the closest to the ghosts because it's legitimate intent that just got
Yeah,
and feelings of, we'll say, love, right? Whether it's a happy birthday, I love you, grandma, and all that. Like, I
that's
think
a
this
good
is the
point. I like
closest
that.
we get to ghosts in the scenarios we're discussing here because it's a legitimate intent just released too late. So it's a time dilation aspect. I mean,
Right.
for that,
Well, yeah. I wouldn't say time dilation, but I like where you're going with this, where it is somewhat of a ghost because the person is no longer with us, right? And so it's just
but their
kind of the
sentiment
spirit of
is,
who they were that sent it.
yeah, yep.
But it was just you're right, it was just kind of spread out, right? I think, and look, I think this happens more often on SMS especially. Like I will get text out of order. I will get text days later than other people get the same text on like a group chat. These kinds of things still happen all the time, just maybe not, months, years after.
Okay, Dustin, now business
Yeah.
idea. Okay.
Okay, we got business idea or movie idea.
It might be both because it can be if it's successful enough, they make movies about your business where you make a service where if say you're old or infirm or something, you come you come to this company, well, okay, us, and it's like hauntlater.com. And so what they do,
Okay.
whether they're nice messages or mean messages, well, they give us a bunch of messages, we wait for them to die, and then we drip them out at the rate they've asked for. And it can be everything from like, hey, grandma, I love you from beyond and stuff like that. Or if it's spiteful, be like, ooh, I'm watching you. So there we go. But I don't know if that'd be legal. I think if you make people feel uncomfortable, there's probably
That
something there.
yeah, there's probably some kind of like digital bullying or harassment law that you're not
Yeah.
supposed to you're not
Okay. It
supposed to
needs some
even
more
after.
time in the oven.
But
This idea, but we're on the way.
who are they gonna go after? Like if you wanted to set these up for Google, through Google, you still can, I think. You can still set up automated messages from your email or Gmail or Apple Mail or whatever it is. Like you can still set that kind of stuff up.
But
So
for an extra service, we can give them the Back to the Future experience where we show up after a life event in a trench coat and a briefcase, like what Doc Brown did to Marty at the end of Back to the Future 2, and be like, here's a message from beyond. I'm
I'd be
sorry, I'm
surprised if
taking
you
your
couldn't do
whole
that already.
show off
No,
the
no, no.
rails.
Look, hey, I'm all about starting the next thing. If that's movies with Meg Ryan or dressing up in trench coats and driving out to the middle of nowhere, I'm
Whether we
all
scare Meg
about it.
Ryan for 2 hours or we get trench coats and go tell people we're from their dead
Yep.
grandparents. Got it.
But look, this ties back into a lot of the themes we've been talking about this year on legitimate cyber. One of those being, we're still, as much as AI might be changing the game or might be seemingly changing the game, guess what it's running on? It's running on these servers that need to be rebooted every once
Yeah.
in a while. And sometimes there might be some stuff that's gummed up in the works, for lack of a better term, and might just start executing things. So when we talk about things like agentic AI, that gets even scarier because it can do its own thing, but it might
Once
be,
it gets here.
5 years in the past with its information or something. And so you get, we're going to start seeing some of these same things kind of happen. And look, some people are like, well, yeah, but you can use agentic AI to like notice these types of things and reset
My AI
reset
will know
the
it's
server
AI.
before it happens. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like there's lots of implications here from a cybersecurity perspective. Obviously, setting up automated messages to your loved ones. I don't know if there is necessarily a cybersecurity aspect to that. Other than, I think for the most part, most services have the capability to be able to transfer your account to somebody if something were to happen to you. So you go in a coma, you die, something like that. What is Halloween for if not talking about death? Then there is the capability to transfer those to your next of kin, right? And so that's something important for everybody to think about. I wanted everybody to make sure that they had their wills updated,
Yeah,
okay?
for
But also
everyone,
make sure
if you haven't had your will written yet, do that. And second, make sure your LastPass emergency account is someone you know, love, and trust.
yeah. For the SMS thing, I mentioned SMS spoofing. It's totally possible still in the United States. They have put in a lot of protections for it to happen. You have to usually have a number that's registered with the telephone with a telephony company, a telephony company, telephony company to say like, I'm Dustin Brewer. I own this number. Here's I think you have to do like a tax form or some kind of special IRS form for it as well. So you have to prove that you are someone who owns that. There's still ways around it. There are still capabilities via VoIP, capabilities via internet SMS servers that where you can spoof numbers. So and we can do this actually on our pen testing team. We have this capability where we can spoof numbers to call somebody from what appears to be the CEO's number, the HQ number, whatever it is, right? So those things are out there. Something to keep in mind. So if you do receive a text from a deceased loved one or just maybe someone you haven't heard from in a really long time, still always question that, right? I had a good one this week, Frank. I had a text from the Trump administration, and they wanted to let me know that
This
they
was a
had
good
some special
text.
yeah, they had some special information for me, and I had to click on a Bitly in order to get that special information.
You know it's legit when it's Bitly.
Keep that kind of stuff in mind though, because oh gosh, we get, especially in the United States, especially during election time, we get so many text messages from so many politicians. It should be illegal. It really should. Like it's just too much.
Which
But this was
quick reminder for the listeners, we're saying Bitly like you might know what it is. A Bitly link is a URL that is obfuscated and through a service called Bitly, and the URL will say bit.ly and then have a bunch of stuff at the end, obfuscating what it's really pointing you to when you click it. So whenever you see those, don't touch it. Sorry, please
don't do it,
continue.
especially if it comes through an SMS message, right? Like it's just don't do it. Email, probably don't do it either, but check, right? Because there are some legitimate uses for these
I miss the
things.
days we could trust those because it was a convenient way to shorten URLs. Remember that?
I
Remember
know.
2015?
I know, right? Remember when cybersecurity was just kind of like, make sure you don't do certain things. Don't double click on an executable file. Like that was kind of it. Don't download those things from eDonkey or
And be
Amazon.
careful of just PDFs. Just be careful of PDFs
Yeah,
was the other one.
just be careful of them.
Now you have to, yeah.
So look, we have these capabilities, but it always, once again, it's one of those context things, right? Make sure that you're paying attention to the context in which you're receiving these, and then always make sure that to confirm via a secondary channel that you're getting the email or the SMS message from somebody that is legitimately the person they're claiming to be. So big thing there. Frank, anything else to say about SMSs or emails before we get into your story?
Yeah, go ahead. This is my favorite.
Yeah. So this is called, and aptly so, I guess it's going to ruin it for a lot of folks, but Grace Hopper and the first computer bug, quote unquote. So on September 9th, 1947, engineers working on the Harvard Mark II computer encountered a mysterious malfunction. The machine was a room-sized electromechanical relay computer, and it had begun producing inconsistent results on one of its circuits. Ghost in the machine, right? When the operators opened up the panel, they discovered the cause. Frank, I know you know this cause, but I'm going to go ahead and let you go ahead and you say it. What was the cause?
It was a moth that had got stuck in the transistors, and it was an actual bug that was making the computer buggy. It's one of my favorite stories. It was one of the first stories that was told to me at DoD when I started there, because one of the first things you do when you get there is you get to go through the little museum that they have, and they talk about the history of cryptology and so forth. And one of the things that I thought was most exciting was Grace Hopper finding the first bug. And I think it's just the bee's knees.
Yep.
Because Grace Hopper sounds a
So
lot like grasshopper. And so
it
I feel
does.
like there's just some kids.
So the engineers carefully removed the insects, taped it to the logbook, and wrote first actual case of a bug being found. Rear Admiral Grace Murray Hooper was one of the pioneers of early
Was it
computing and
Hooper? I
part of
thought
the
it was
Harvard Mark
Hopper.
II.
It's
Did
Hooper?
I say Cooper? Sorry.
I thought it was Hopper.
Hopper. How would you
Hopper.
pronounce that?
Hopper.
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 I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I mispronounce things like that sometimes.
that's okay.
So later popularized the terminology of debug from that incident. The logbook is preserved at the Smithsonian Institute, insect and all, a literal reminder that even the most advanced systems can be derailed by the smallest of intruders. It wasn't the first time that computers had behaved unpredictably, but it was the first time that we could actually see the bug. And so you introduced, I did not, I had a very different experience coming into the DoD than you did. We definitely came in through different avenues. You were
Yes, I
civilian,
would
I was
say correct.
military. I did not get to go on a tour of the museum that's there on campus. So, but I know exactly what you're talking about because I think when I had family come to visit, they were like, "Can we go to to where you work?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "But there is a museum on the outside of it that you can go to, and you can see different things." And so, like, I remember kind of going in there. I think the not the ENIAC, the Enigma machine is
The
sitting
Enigma
there, right?
machines
The
there, they have
original
one of
Enigma.
them. Yep,
Yeah, which is really cool to
really
see. It's a
cool.
really cool kind of, and actually, I think it might have closed down after something happened. Was it
There was
COVID?
a lot of rebuilding and they had to make more parking, so I know that the building is gone, but maybe they moved it. Who knows?
Okay. Okay. It might be, maybe everything's in the Smithsonian now. So anyway, really, really cool story here and really cool kind of testament to, those early days of computing and how we still utilize terminology from back then. We still say bug, right? We still say it.
We do.
And this is the reason. Now, Frank, I think you did some research on this before this call as well. And you found that they're trying to kind of not attribute it to
Okay, listen.
Admiral Hooper.
Yeah. First of all, I only found 1 or 2 articles, but they're trying to say that it's made up and not true. That one, the handwriting doesn't really match her handwriting. But then they say it doesn't even matter if it was her or not. That wasn't the first bug because they're trying to attribute it to Thomas Edison, who found bugs and some of physical bugs in his machine. Thomas
He
Edison,
invented everything.
Edison, of course, what lived in like a much earlier time where it wasn't just bugs you were concerned about, but tuberculosis and rats you'd find in your daily house. So cool. But I think for the context of what we're discussing here and cybersecurity and understanding Grace Hopper's role in computing and cybersecurity, I think it is still the best example of, if not the first bug found, one of the earliest. And I think it's pretty amazing in that regard. Grace Hopper, keeping in theme with today's theme, after a long life, now a ghost.
That's right. She has passed away, sadly, but we
Sadly,
still
but she
remember
lived a
her.
long, full life. Yeah,
She did
which
live a
I'm very
long, full
happy.
life. And so, from a cybersecurity perspective, this is actually a pretty cool thing. If you think about it, it's something that could have been exploited, right? It is, if you think about it, if Russians really wanted to, at the time, if they really wanted to have destroyed that computer, they could have released a bunch of moths into the air ducts that went into that room. They could have, there's all
Well,
kinds of different things they can do.
who
I
says
actually
they
have, you
don't
know what?
now? Just saying.
That's right. That's a
Who
good
says
point.
they're not?
But the point here is like always looking for those things, in cybersecurity, we're always looking for the thing that nobody else is looking at, right? Because that's what the bad guys are doing. They are going to find something like that. As silly as that sounds, releasing moths into the air vents, I wouldn't be surprised if it's been tried before or not successfully done before. And so maybe that was part of it. Maybe it was an attempt by a Soviet, right? And a Soviet spy. So look, I know this is all going to sound very conspiratorial, but it's true. And actually, I do have a real life example of this. I forgot about this until we just started until you mentioned this earlier, Frank. When I on my early days as a IT person on the tech bench, we would get all kinds of people bringing in their computers, and we would have to try to troubleshoot them. This one would turn on for a little bit and then shut down. So okay, probably an overheating issue. I opened up the case for the desktop computer, and I found the largest black widow nest
Nope.
I have
Nope.
ever seen, ever. And I was like, man, that's so weird. Like, but anyway, so I vacuumed them out. We eradicated the pest, but similar thing, right? Where it was causing it was something physical that was causing something to affect something digital, right? And look, I know we think about these a lot in terms of like, yeah, somebody turned the power switch off, or yeah, we have overheating issues. We still have these issues, by the way, because again, another ad nauseum thing that we always talk about. These are still running off of the same, infrastructure that we were working with back in the 70s. Not much has changed. We still need tons of cooling. We still need tons of electricity and HVAC in order to control the physical environment, dehumidifiers in order to control the physical environment that a lot of our digital infrastructure is running in. And that is something that can be exploited, right? Because if
It
you can
is.
turn off the AC or the dehumidifier, you can essentially break down an entire data center. And if you do that, where's it all going to go? US East 2? Who knows? Or Azure? Maybe not, right? We've had problems with both of those in the past 2 weeks. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Like these all still, it's funny because we're going through it and we're having fun with it because it's Halloween. But at the same time, all of these issues that we've talked about are still issues today. They've been mitigated somewhat, but they still are something that still could happen today. It could happen to you today. Any one of these could happen. A moth could fly into your laptop today.
Well,
Anyway,
with
Frank.
that,
Yeah, yeah,
happy Halloween, everyone. If you have
yeah.
your own stories that you think fit this, please share them below. Put them in the comments. We love to hear everyone's scary stories, especially as they apply to cybersecurity and the digital lifestyle. Thank you
Absolutely.
for encouraging us to put out this extra episode this week so that we could discuss some of these scary things. If you have any other episode ideas, please feel free to comment. We always love the ideas that come from our fans as well. Otherwise, until then, happy Halloween, and we'll see you next week.